everybody. Welcome to Dim Lights Horror, the podcast that tells classic and modern stories from around the world for you to hear. Now please, take a seat, dim your lights, and join me in today's story by Reddit user Lone Donut. This story is a prologue of Step 9. Step 10. The moonlight shimmers across the hood of the car, casting an eerie silver glow. I turned off the ignition and gazed up to the moon. It's full, just like it had been there the night of our wedding. I envision miniature versions of us dancing across the dash, dancing to a faded melody. Closing my eyes, I can almost feel his arms around me, guiding me across the dance floor. The hooting of an owl brings me back to the present, and I look out over the dark water. I'm the only car parked in the lot, and I can see clear no trespassing signs after dark. I glance over to the passenger seat, where the second page of the letters sits. I read over the words again and again, almost not believing what I have to do. A speckle of silver light reflects into my eyes, and I look at the silver keyring. After the page was signed, and the deal was sealed, I found the silver ring hanging up with our keys. I knew that it was real, that I had a chance to see him again. I could bring him back. Immediately, I snatched the ring and my car keys and sped off to the location listed in the letter. My Step 10, also known as the 10 Rings, was to begin at Lake Minnow. The lake itself isn't deep, only a few feet deep in its darkest parts, but in the very center was a gaping hole that sucked in a fair number of victims, those not knowing of a sudden drop and disappearing into its dark depths. Sitting in my car, the lake looks vast and black, uninviting in the very least. I read the 10th step again and again. Hidden in the lake are 10 silver rings. All I have to do is find them, and I'd be one step closer to having him in my arms once more. The lake is only half a mile across, in an almost perfectly circular shape. I have 10 hours to find all 10 rings. I take a deep breath, and I go to get out of the car, but no matter how hard I try, I can't will myself to move. My hands grip the steering wheel in a vice-like grip, and goosebumps trickle up and down my arms. The knuckles of my fingers are deathly white, and I feel as though they're going to pop from the tension. The hair on the back of my neck stands on end, and my heart pounds in my chest. I've always had a fear of water, especially deep, dark water, where I can't see what's around me. It's not the water itself that scares me, but the things that lurk within. Lake Minnow had a small fish population, and nothing more than that. But I was participating in a game of the supernatural. Anything could be waiting for me in those murky depths. Images of eel-like creatures and sharp teeth flash through my mind, and sweat begins to run down my face. I can't do this. I can't dive in almost pitch-black water in search of teeny silver rings. I just can't. Tears start to run down my cheeks, and my body shakes violently out of fear and self-doubt. Without reason, his face appears before me, smiling. I can feel his warmth and comfort, and my body slowly begins to relax. If I ever died, I would at least be with him. I could see him again, no matter what happens. I take in slow, deep breaths and feel my muscles start to relax. One by one, I peel my fingers off the steering wheel, wincing at the pain. I could feel the blood starting to flow back into them, and I force myself out of the car before I can hesitate again. Walking down the hill of the lake, I can feel my shoes threaten to slip on the wet grass. I struggle to stay upright. My eyes are locked on the dark water, and with each ripple, I picture a slimy, thin creature lurking below, just waiting for me to join it in the water. Every time this thought invades my head, I force it away with his smiling face. I can do this. At the edge of the water, I stop and slip off my sneakers. Then I strip off my clothes so I'm just wearing my underwear. The night air nips at my flesh and I shiver. I could have brought a bathing suit or anything to help me stay underwater longer. I look down at my hands and turn over the waterproof flashlight we keep in the car. When you're afraid of water like I am, you're always ready for it if your car suddenly finds its way into it, with you in it. Taking a step into the black water, my entire body ripples and my teeth chatter at the cold. I take another step, then another, flicking on the flashlight. I cast it over the lake. The water is still, besides the ripples coming from my movement. There's no sound, besides my panicked breaths. Gasping deeply, I dive in. My light immediately shines off something glimmering at the bottom of the lake. Moving closer, I reach out and pick it up. A silver ring. It shimmers in the watery light, and I feel hope begin to grow in my chest. I slip it onto the pinky finger of my left hand, and it's a perfect fit. I continue to search, standing upright for air anytime I need. The shallowness of the lake helps calm my nerves, and I remind myself that a giant water creature couldn't possibly live here. But in the back of my mind, I think of a sudden drop in the center of the lake, and how deep it is. Something could live there in that almost too perfect circle of darkness. Darkness that seeps into the unknown depths of the surface of the water. Within an hour, I find 4 of the 10 silver rings. Only the thumb on my left hand is without a ring. The moon now resides in the center of the sky, right above the lake. Its heavenly glow helps me relax, and I pretend that I'm just out for a late night swim. But no matter how much I'd like to pretend, he is still dead and gone, and I'm going to do everything to bring him back. The 5th ring I find sitting on the rock along the north side of the lake. I had gone around the entire east side and had covered almost half the lake. Still, I can't bring myself to get close to the center of the lake. Visions of monstrous fish haunt my brain. I hold my left hand up towards the moon, and I am in awe at the way the moonlight shines off the pure metal. Something brushes against my leg. I scream, falling back as I try frantically to get away from whatever touched me. My flashlight is still under the water, and I catch the fleeting glimpse of a small fish swimming away. Struggling to catch my breath, I stand still for a moment, the water only coming to my waist. It was just a fish. I'm invading their home. There are going to be fish. I calm the pounding of my heart and begin to wade again. Casting the flashlight back and forth, I search for the glimmering metal. Ring 6, 7, and 8 I find along the western side of the lake. I've only been searching for a few hours and have plenty of time left. Still, a creeping feeling of unease is crawling along my back. I can't help but feel as if this is all too easy. I'm now back near the parking lot where I had begun my search. As I wade up through the water, the night air cold on my skin, I catch a glimmer of silver off my left. I swallow a lump in my throat and swim deeper into the lake. The water is now up to my shoulders, and I duck under the surface to grab the 9th ring. Slipping it onto my finger, relief begins to fill my body at the thought of almost being over. I'm about to resurface when my flashlight glints off another silver medal further in. I stop, stare into the darkness beyond my ray of light. I can see the ring perfectly sitting on a stone right at the edge of a drop-off. Beyond it, darkness. I stand up and take some deep breaths. Fear has weaseled its way back into my chest, and I struggle to keep from panicking. It's the last one. I just have to grab it. Then I'm done, and I'll be one step closer to seeing him again. Gathering the bits of courage I have left, I dive back under. I swim quickly towards the ring, forcing myself to keep my eyes locked on it to keep from panicking. My mind conjures up visions of creatures swimming around me, swimming in the dark and creeping closer. Reaching out, my hand is about to snatch up the ring when I stop. There, just at the edge of my flashlight, in the depths of the hole, is something long and black. It races out of the hole, and it's moving. My heart pounds in my chest as my eyes slowly rise up to its shape, and I realize it's moving closer. My flashlight shines up at this cylindrical thing, then stops at the very top. Just a few feet away, hovering in the darkness of the water, is the thing of my nightmares. Its face is like that of a horse, long and rounded. I can see the slit along its face where its mouth is, and two large black eyes staring right at me. It was as if the Loch Ness Monster had somehow found its way into Lake Minnow, and it was hungry. The light of my flashlight shines off its eyes, and its mouth slowly begins to open. I can see rows and rows of pointed teeth and pink gums. The air escapes my lungs as I scream, but my hand still manages to snap shut around the ring. I kick up off the mud of the lake and propel myself backwards as hard as I can. I feel the faint feeling of movement near where my hand was, and catch a glimpse of the creature's face snapping shut where I had previously been swimming. My head breaks the surface and I gasp for air, swimming as hard and as fast as I can. I can feel it behind me, the image of its impossibly long neck racing further and further out of the hole to chase me. As I kick my legs as hard as I can feel my foot collide with something slippery and tough. Another scream racks my body as I realize that I had just kicked it in the face. It was real, not a phantom brought up from the game. It was a living creature, and my entire body could fit in its mouth at once. I get to the point where I can't swim anymore and have to run. The mud seems to suck at my ankles, trying to hold me in place. I trip over a rock and land hard in the shallow water. Despite my fear and desperate need to get out, I look behind me. Reaching the surface of the lake, just a foot behind me, is the top of the creature's head. Its eyes glowed in the moonlight, and I can see its jaws starting to open again. I crawl through the mud, gasping for air. Fear has complete control of my body, and adrenaline courses through my veins. The bank comes closer and closer, and I scramble to get to it as fast as I can. I reach out, about to touch the soft feeling of grass and dirt, when a searing pain explodes through my left foot. I look back, crying out in pain and fear. The thing's eyes stare right at me, full of hunger and delight. My foot is gone, hidden behind its wide jaw. The flight mode in me is gone, no longer able to flee. Instead, I do the only thing I can think of. I kick. Screaming and kicking, I attack the thing's face with all the power I have. I can feel the ground sliding below me and the water starting to rise. It was dragging me back into the water, back into the depths. I punch and kick, screaming, all the while fear takes over my mind. Without thinking, I take the flashlight and jam it as hard as I can into the thing's right eye. A roar vibrates in my body, and I feel the teeth withdrawing from my ankle. I scramble back, the water and earth around me shaking from the creature's painful cry. Tears are streaming down my face, and I limp as fast as I can to the shore. I pull myself to the soft, cold grass and watch the thing disappear back into the water, the light of my flashlight illuminating its retreat. I watch as the light fades and drops into the darkness at the center of the lake. Looking down, I see multiple sharp puncture holes at my ankle, all seeping dark red blood. I have yet to catch my breath and start to crawl over to my pile of clothes. When I reach it, I notice something that hadn't been there before. Sitting atop my funeral clothes is a bright red key. I pick it up, forgetting the throbbing pain in my ankle. It seems to glow with an eerie red light, and it feels warm to the touch. Holding it in the palm of my hand, I can see writing engraved on the side. Step 10 complete. I start to cry from joy and delirium. It had worked. It is possible to have him back. I laugh and cry, laying on my back on the shore of Lake Minnow. The stars above me glimmer, and I can see the sky starting to turn from purple to orange. The mixture of colors was beautiful, combining the center to make the shades of purple and orange I had never seen before. Dawn was approaching, and I had survived what lived in the darkest depths of my nightmares. At that, though, I close my eyes, feeling exhaustion starting to take over as the adrenaline fades away. I fall asleep to the sound of early morning birds and the soft lapping of the water on the shore. Thank you all for listening. If you're listening on YouTube, please subscribe and leave a comment. I value your feedback. And if you're listening on Spotify, click the follow button to hear more stories from Dim Lights Horror. And be sure to take a look at my Facebook and Instagram. Just look up Dim Lights Horror in the search bar. Good night, everyone.